Yes, Couch Boy.
Lio, are we? Wait, I don't think we're live.
We're live.
I'm checking it right
We're live.
for.
It's got a 30-second
Oh.
delay. Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry about that, everyone. Hey,
So,
what's up, me?
so we got the illustrious Couch Boy, and we've got number one Marmaduke fan.
Hey, howdy. So did you plan this on purpose to have this be episode number 34 and we were going to look at fan art
No, because I'm not.
because
Because
of
I'm
Rule
not.
34?
Because I am a prude. I am like Solomon Kane levels of prude.
Good.
Meanwhile,
I don't want to see Rule 34 Thunder.
If we do, I will
Meanwhile,
make.
I am the epitome. I am the epitome of bonk go to horny jail, but that's not what this episode is about.
Marm, if we did do an episode like that, I'd make sure it's all only snarf, just for you.
Oh boy.
Hold on, I need to kennel this cat. She's not doing anything. All right, Mama.
I put the baby in jail.
Time to go to
Go
kitty
to
jail.
jail.
Time to go to kitty jail. Kitty jail, mamas. You are not cooperating. Welcome to the ThunderCast, where I fight with a literal cat.
They do not obey Arlio's commands.
Well, she doesn't obey the fact that I need her to not interfere in the middle of stuff, but let's see here, okay? So we're going to start off with, of course, the episode reviews, and we're going to start with the Rock Giant and move on to Jackalman's Rebellion. So, Marm, why don't you go ahead and give us a synopsis on the Rock Giant?
The Rock Giant. So it opens with Mum-Ra, the ever-living, contemplating how to defeat the Thundercats, and from the bowels of a volcano, he awakens a massive rock giant. Meanwhile, Wily Kit and Wily Cat are out having a good old time when they're caught in a thunderstorm and narrowly escape being struck by lightning after Lion-O gives them a timely warning that a tree is the worst place you can possibly hide during a lightning storm. When the rock giant attacks, they don't seem to have any way of defeating him until Lion-O receives counsel from Jaga the Wise that one needs fire and water to conquer the ancient elements, heat and cold. So Lion-O gets the bright idea that if he can heat up the rock giant and then quickly cool it off, he can crack it. It actually works, just like you did in science class back in high school. And the day is saved. And it seems to be revealed that none of the Under Thundercats are aware that Lion-O has this connection with Jaga. And just kind of like a straightforward, action-packed episode.
All right, and what are your thoughts about the episode specifically, Marm?
I like it. I kind of like how the rock giant has, I don't know, this hatching shading to him in the shadows of his face. It kind of gives it this big, intimidating presence. It makes it distinct from the other characters. It's fun to see, it's always fun to see the Thundercats basically up against a big force they can't possibly tackle. And I kind of like the connection of history to science. So, like, I think Jaga reminds Lion-O that this is the way that ancients would crack rock to build cities in ancient times. And then it's a creative use of the sword as well, where he uses the sword to physically heat something up. And there's also kind of a nice element of Lion-O being brash and running into battle, but this time, rather than getting him into trouble, it's actually a useful. It can be a positive trait as well as a negative trait for Lion-O.
All right, and Couch, what are your thoughts on the episode?
To me, I feel like this is very much a quintessential filler episode. That's not to say it's bad, but it's just kind of more straightforward. It's, oh, big monster, Thundercats, gotta go get rid of it. And I'm looking at my little script that I write up for each of these, and I can tell that I wrote this very late at night, because one of my notes is literally just, the rock giant looks like a big stupid monkey.
Well, I mean, I've got him up on the screen, and that's not an incorrect assessment, I think.
Right. I kind of would have, I don't know, I felt like they could have done a little more to make him look intimidating. Just, he just kind of looks like this big, like, roly-poly monkey man. And I don't know, I almost felt like he looked a little goofy. But one thing about this episode that was definitely not goofy was it's one of the few episodes where we actually see an antagonist like die or be destroyed on screen in kind of a brutal way.
Won't be the last time either, just so you're aware.
Right, right. Like after Lino heats him up and he falls into Cat Slayer's mode, I mean, we hear him start screaming and then he starts cracking, lava starts pouring out of him and he kind of just pops if I'm remembering it correctly. It's pretty brutal, especially for a Thundercats episode.
He had it coming. He did tax evasion.
Well, he's a rock, so it doesn't count. You can be as violent as you want to robots and rocks.
That's true. That's probably how they got away with it.
All right, so here's the show notes for the episode. The Rock Giant. Ah, the thing done goofed on me. How dare you, you monster. Okay, let's try this again. The Rock Giant, written by Peter Lawrence, one of my favorite writers on this show. A rather perfunctory contribution from Peter Lawrence, The Rock Giant is reasonably enjoyable, but not as dynamic as neighboring episodes from this era. There is nothing inherently wrong with it, indeed it is far better than certain episodes from the second season, nor is it particularly controversial. It simply comes across as somewhat of a filler, a relative simple idea expanded to fill the schedule. Good job, Couch. The episode isn't without merit, however. The highlights include the character design for the Rock Giant himself, which works well. There are also a series of enjoyable scenes, including the Thunder Tank clawing its way vertically out of the ravine, Lion-O and Panthro almost inadvertently blasting the Thunder Kittens to oblivion, and a wonderful long shot of Cat Slayer as the tank races home pursued by the giant. Where monster episodes sometimes suffer is the lack of a perceived villain. While the Rock Giant is presented as a viable threat, and his size and presence certainly make him memorable, the Thundercats cannot interact or converse with him, and as such, he can only ever be a one-dimensional menace. The episode also suffers from a slow setup, with Mum-Ra, yet again, unnecessarily involved in proceedings and arguably slowing things down. However, the second half definitely picks up pace and works much better. There is a nice scene with Jaga in which he bestows his advice to combat the Rock Giant, and the moment when Lion-O slices a boulder in two gives it an added flavor. The climax is also relatively well executed as the Rock Giant plunges to his doom. The episode's most successful aspect is the atmosphere created. The storm is well presented on screen, and there is a distinct sense of impending doom throughout, as the show continues to display the many strange and wonderful creatures of Third Earth. Writer commentary from Peter Lawrence. To be truthful, I remember almost nothing about the genesis of this episode, and reading synopsis and the morals, it all seems to me a bit of a stretch. I believe that the Rock Giant was one of those characters proposed by Lynn early in the development of the show before I arrived. I could be wrong about that, but this isn't a character that typically I would create. It's more in Lynn's style, and if that's true, I'd imagine that Jules or perhaps even LJN asked to see a story built around it. Which, the latter obviously isn't true, they never made a toy of it. Once you begin to work with animated rock, you probably automatically led to physics, volcanics, the properties of granite and other rocks, and on, which is how fire and ice solution would come about. My personal thoughts on this episode ultimately come down to the fact that, number one, I like that the villain isn't just like some magical creature that they can whisk away or something they can counter in a less practical way. They actually have to use old technology. And the way it's presented, it's basically don't forget what happened to the past because it can affect and inform the present. And that's a good lesson to teach anybody. On top of that, there's the practical nods they show in the show of don't hide under a tree in a thunderstorm, you dummy. But no, when I was a kid watching this, like, and of course it came back on in 1997, but like what always stuck with me was the scenes where the Rock Giant is being heated up and cooled down, and then when he's breaking apart, all of the like internal lava that you see making him up. That always stuck to me as a kid. One thing I did think was funny though is initially he gets thrown into the moat of Cat's lair, and there's a pause between him hitting it and between him struggling and moaning. Like for just a second he had to take in that just happened to me, and now I should react. So I always found that somewhat funny. All right, so now that we've gotten that episode discussed, let's go ahead and move on to the next episode, Jackalman's Rebellion. And since I had Marm cover that first episode, why don't we go ahead and move on to our good friend Couch. And Couch, why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts on, or rather the synopsis of Jackalman's Rebellion.
All right, so the episode starts out with the mutants chasing Jackalman in Vulture Man's flying machine. Turns out he stole it, as well as Slide mentions at some point that he stole their weapons as well, because he wants to create his own army. There's a very neat scene where he kind of manages to distract the other mutants by luring them towards the Thunder tank and making them accidentally fire at it. And he's able to get away. And once he gets away, he assembles his quote-unquote army, which turns out to be literally 2 people, the Driller and the Mole Master, who both showed up in previous episodes. From there, he takes over, I think it's the Vulcan village first, yeah, and then they somehow managed to destroy the entire Wallow village in that time, before eventually being stopped by the Thundercats. And there's a really great scene at the end where I think the mutants kind of realize that they're stuck with each other because the Thunderkittens and Snarf are watching them basically kind of take the piss out of Jackalman at the end of the episode because they did end up taking him back.
I mean, he had it coming. But what are your thoughts on this episode specifically?
I like this episode a lot. It really gives us the opportunity to see just how cunning Jackalman really is. This is an episode that kind of more focuses on the side characters, I feel, than the main protagonists. Let's see. But the one thing I just love is that for his quote unquote army, he manages to get like 2 people. It feels.
And he convinces them to call him General.
Yeah, General Jackalman. I can't think of what the Driller's logic would be. My running theory is that the 2 of them were just kind of bored that day, and they're like, hey, you know what? I don't have anything better to do. Let's go along with this General Jackalman and see what happens. The one thing I really wish they did though was I wish there was more of like a build up to him going off on his own, because it's not really explained as to why he wants to go solo all of a sudden, aside from him, wanting Third Earth to himself, and it kind of seems out of character for him because he's
a pussy.
He's always seen as like somewhat cowardly.
Yeah, a pussy.
Right? Yeah. He a little bitch. Yeah, it just, I really liked it, but Jackalman, I think, did feel a little out of character. The one thing I also really liked is there was a little bit where all of the mutants were going after Lion-O, and they imprison Monkey manages to imprison him in some kind of like energy field, and when he breaks it, he just like screams at them, and they all like sprint, like they get out of there. It was so funny. Like I was dying.
All right, Marm, what's your thoughts on the episode?
I like these episodes that emphasize some of the, politics between the mutants. That's one of the most fun things about them is they're always at each other's throats, unlike the Thundercats. I kind of agree with Couch that it'd been nice to see a little bit more setup. You'd almost think Vulture-Man would be the one who would rebel because he's the one who's had the most run-ins or headbutting with Slythe in the past. And it is fun to see like previous villains make a guest appearance again. My headcanon is that Driller is fine calling Jackalman anything he wants as long as he gets his diamonds.
Diamonds. Sorry, had to do it.
Diamond. And it's fun to see them harassing, some of the locals that the Thundercats protect. It reminds you that the Thundercats have like an actual role in helping their neighbors out a bit. It's also kind of fun how Jackalman as a general is sort of just wants to conquer and take over stuff. It's kind of connecting them with their savage barbarian versus heroic knights motif. And, just kind of like a fun good guys versus bad guys episode, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, so let me go ahead and read the show notes. Jackalman's Rebellion, written by Bruce Smith. Jackalman's Rebellion is an inoffensive yet basic offering. Like Monkey's Bargain and a super power potion, it is one of the episodes that spotlights and expands on a particular character. Whether or not such episodes succeed depends on the writer. Unfortunately, Jackalman's Rebellion has none of the flair of Monkey's Bargain, and whereas that episode succeeded in showing Monkeyan as a viable threat, this one seems to be played for laughs, and if anything reinforces the belief that Jackalman is a bumbling oaf. And I just realized I forgot to put the image up, so boop, there you go. And as ever, there are redeeming features. This is a strong opening where we see Jackalman having inexplicably stolen Vultureman's flying machine. Bye-bye, mutants! This time, I'm going solo! In an interesting reversal, it is the Thundercats who, for once, get in the way of the mutant activity, as Slythe and his band pursued their renegade. It is also nice to see previously underdeveloped villains like the Driller and Mole Master return, yet in the third Thundercat appearance, the poor Driller is still relegated to simply drilling holes. Mutiny within any faction is always an enjoyable concept and ripe for development by any writer. Unfortunately, this episode is certainly the weaker of Bruce Smith's two contributions. As mentioned, the comic approach overwhelms its dramatic possibilities. While Jackalman's self-appointed mantle as general is twee at first, it becomes a little staid, and we learn precious little about his character. One welcome note, however, is a reference back to the events of Feeliner, as Jackalman reveals he squirreled away Rataro's very cannon, leading us to the conclusion that Jackalman has harbored thoughts of dissension for some time. Other enjoyable touches include Chitara being challenged to catch Mole Master, to which he replies, "Gentlemen, place your bets." Sadly, these endearing moments are short-lived and the episode drags along in places. Further quirks include the Thundercats' perplexing new ability to spy on Castle Plundar, which surely would have been exploited previously had it existed. There's also a great example of hyperbole, as the dramatic declaration that there is trouble in Sector 10 turns out to refer to a unicorn tied to a tree. This is far from the worst Thundercats. It's simply an enjoyable filler that doesn't quite live up to its potential. Writer's commentary from Bruce Smith. Jackalman is a classic organization man with the fatal combination of small talents and large ambition. I thought it would be interesting to plunge the mutants into crisis and show how thin were the bonds that held them together. It was also an opportunity for the Thundercats to ponder their own team culture and contrast their loyalty based on mutant respect against the mutants' culture of convenience and opportunism. Looking at the episode now, I think it was too talky and did not put the Thundercats into sufficient jeopardy. I was trying to make the point that unvarnished personal ambition is a terribly limiting trait that can wreak havoc on any organization. Personally, I generally enjoyed the episode, even though it was kind of filler. It's certainly not my favorite episode of Thundercats, but I like the touch that when he was General Jackalman, he put a goofy little star on his chest piece.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just
I am a general now, and generals have stars. Let me get the Sharpie. Maybe a little...
I like to imagine he stole it from like a little kid or something.
Give me that.
Give me
Mama Jackalman never gave him a golden star. Never got any golden stickers in mutant school.
I will steal what I could not earn.
all right.
He's like, you won't give me my star back.
Someone took my star. It was probably Slythe. No. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our discussion about the character we are going to talk about today, which is the Snowman of Hook Mountain. Trading off back and forth. Couch, why don't you give us your thoughts on this illustrious Thundercat ally?
Okay, so I both like and dislike Snowman for a few reasons. Like, when he has his helmet, like, I absolutely love his armor. Like, the best way I can describe him is he almost looks like a character that came, like, straight out of Dark Souls. But, yeah. But like, obviously, in a good way, he's obviously very intimidating. He's got that, big booming voice. He's huge. He's got a big old cat he rides on. But when he takes off the helmet is kind of when they lose me design-wise, because again, I've complained about monkeys a lot on this show. He just kind of looks like a weird monkey. I think it would have been maybe a little more interesting if they had actually maybe made him, like, some kind of like snow or ice golem like creature. But overall I do like Snowman a lot. One of my favorite scenes with him is in Thundercats Ho, where he pulls Lion-O out of the ice and he's like, "Oh, he's the wrong color."
The implications that could have.
Yeah, but no.
Just Lion-O waking up. I'm not the wrong. You're the wrong color.
So I don't get canceled on Twitter. Lion-O was blue when he said that.
WD.
Oh my god. But yeah, I like him a lot, but I do feel like he's a little uninspired. Like, I mean, Snowman's not a super original name, and I'll be honest, I think Snow Meow is really dumb. I think they could have come up with a much cooler name for him. And the other thing that always kind of bothered me about him is, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the big castle where he lives, right? That's called the Kingdom of the Snowmen, right?
Yes, and you never see any other snowmen.
Exactly. Like where are they? Does this dude just like live in a castle by himself, or all the other snowmen like killed off or something? I feel like I say this with just about every character we do a retrospective on, but I like him, but I want like more information on him.
You see,
So
they unionized and and hosted a walkout. They couldn't never meet their demands, so. I'm sorry. I had to. I'm sorry. It just popped in my head. I'm like, that's too perfect.
No, I'm not paying you $15 an hour. Wait, come back.
You are to serve for battle, not for money.
And like, I cannot. He's like, I cannot pay my rent with battle.
I don't know. He'd probably find a way. All right. So, any other thoughts about Snowman from you, Couch?
In general, I would say I like him, but he feels kind of uninspired.
Aw. All right. Marm, you're up to bat. What do you got to say about this Snowman?
He has good presence. When Couch was talking about like him with his helmet on, that was a really cool moment when he's introduced because he's just this massive man riding a giant cat. The fight for honor thing is a nice touch where, it's kind of like harkening back to Robin Hood versus Little John. You before you become friends with the guy, you have to fight him. That stereotypical guy thing. And it gives Lionel kind of an opportunity to show maybe the good side of his desire for honor. I think in the King Arthur episode, it showed how Lionel was a little too willing to get into a fight he didn't have to get into. But in this case, this kind of like being honorable and fighting this guy actually serves a purpose. It helps them make an ally. He can't make an ally of a dead man, so he's got to go help him out. And it's nice to see Snowman return in later episodes, so he doesn't fall prey to the thing where he's really cool, but he only shows up once. Like we'll see him later fighting the Ice King, and that helps the Ice King feel intimidating because we've seen how formidable a fighter Snowman is. I kind of agree with Couch that it'd be nice to see more of their society, more of like what's a day in the life like for a snowman. But also there's this really cool thing where he can apparently manipulate ice, and I haven't noticed him do that in another episode, but he can literally manipulate ice and make it into a weapon. So there's also a subtle magical quality to him as well as being a big physical threat. Yeah,
I know a lot of people commented when talking about him in general, we see him do this once, but we never see him do it again. And that's a legitimate criticism. I can't blame them for that because, yeah, he only really does that, I think, in the first episode, maybe another one, and never again. So, yeah, pain in the butt. But my thoughts on Snowman, I actually really like him as a character. No ifs, ands, or buts from me. I like him because he's a good mixture of the classic knight motif as well as the classic barbarian motif. And I mean that as in, like, when he first meets Lionel, they don't sit here and have rational conversations. What they do is he's like, honor and trust, or trust is, earned through battle. His entire ideology, unlike, say, Hachiman has no problem talking to somebody so long as they show deference. His entire modus operandi is, if you want to be friends, you have to fight me. And you have to fight me well, and you cannot be a pussy. You are not... No pussies, except for Snow Meow, are allowed in my Snow Kingdom. Right next to the No Girls Allowed sign. Like, I really do like him as a character. And as far as fleshing him out more, that was done quite a bit to an extent, in the UK comics, where they actually gave him a name. Because, you hear him referenced as the Snow Knight or the Snowman. In the UK comics, his name is King Hanuman. And he does have servants. So he got fleshed out. He just didn't get fleshed out in the cartoon for, a myriad of different reasons. But Simon Furman worked quite a bit on the UK Thundercat comic. So obviously Simon Furman has an obsession with fleshing out characters, regardless of how big or small they are. In fact, specifically with Transformers, there was a Transformer Pretender character. A Pretender is a Transformer that has an outer humanoid-looking shell that's supposed to blend with society. They never do, if you actually look at them. But there was a character, a toy, named Bludgeon. And Bludgeon had a sort of pseudo-samurai motif to him. And he made him such a main player in the comics that his toy goes for hundreds now because people want it.
Wow. How about that? Huh.
Yeah, so it all depends on where you're getting the stuff from. So, yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy him as a character. I also would like to see him fleshed out more, but I know that he has been in certain areas, but part of the desire to collect all the comics digitally and put them out there for everybody to read is so we can get a good look at these things, so we can take good shots at these things. So there is that. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the chat. You guys go ahead and read off some comments you want to talk about in the chat, and we'll go ahead and address them before we move on to the fan art.
Autobot Starscream says the Snowman adheres to shonen anime DBZ ideals. Fight me to befriend me. I agree.
Pretty much. Oh, I forgot. Real quick. Hold on. Do not apply to Transform. I forgot. I need to read out what they said about him in the book. And then I lost it. Okay. The Snowman of Hook Mountain and his faithful steed, Snow Meow, are trusted allies of the Thundercats. Debuting in Bob Haney's first season episode Adventures, Lord of the Snows, the Snowman appears regularly throughout the series, and is invited to become a member of the League of Third Earth upon the Thundercats' return to Thundera. His final appearance is in Larry Coral's second episode, The Last Day. Though fearsome in appearance, Snowman is loyal to death, and his bravery aids the Thundercats on numerous occasions. His original description can be found in the script for Lord of the Snows. Out of the castle comes the Snowman, a fearsome giant Yeti type, which is why he's so monkey-looking, covered in fur and wearing medieval armor. He is armed with an ice lance, sword, and mace. His shield is made of glittering ice crystals, and an ice visor covers his face, which heightens the sinister effect. He is mounted on a snowcat, a large, muscular white creature based on a lynx. The snowcat seems only half tamed, snarling and rearing its fiery, flashy eyes in ice. The snowcat's name is Snow Meow. So, now that we've gotten all that done, we can go ahead and move on to the chat. We're going to address what people are saying. What's going on here? We can address what people are saying in the chat, and then we can move on to the fan art, which is what most people are, I'd imagine, sitting here for. So, let's take a look here. Yes, that is the DBT ideals. I want them.
Annie G has noticed that the kitty's going meow.
Yeah, meow.
She is. She doesn't like being in the kennel, but right now what I'm doing is there's a piece of art that I'm going to be covering here that I need to give context to because the person did something a bit of an oopsie, a bit of a you shouldn't have done that, Chief, and I need to work on that while I'm doing the stream here. For the specific reason of I need to show proper overlays here, and she would not get off everything for me to do it. So I don't like having her in the kennel. I'll be taking her out here shortly because I'm actually almost done. But that's why you hear the kitty going meow in the background. So
it was throwing me off a bit because I shut my cat out of the room and I'm like, wait, is that her meowing? But I looked over and I didn't see her. I'm like, what is that?
All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about the art. So we are going to do this by numbers. So what we are going to put up first is the one Marmaduke wanted. We got Snowman and Snow Meow. And that art was done by, you can see it in the thread, but I can't read it here. Week 5, Snowman and Snow Meow by Matt White 073 on Twitter. And I'm showing the tweet itself right now. If you guys want to go follow him, you're welcome to. We're going to credit the majority of the artists in here. There are some I can't because I literally could not find who did them. But moving on from there, we're going to go ahead and post the art itself. Now, Marm, you chose this piece to go over. What is it about this piece you like so much?
Well, first, it was kind of it was just kind of like happy coincidence that we were going to talk about Snowman today, and this just so happened to pop up in my feed the day we were going to talk about it. I kind of like that he's picked up the Rankin Bass, cragginess, where a lot of the Rankin Bass characters, they'll have rough knuckles, they'll have kind of rough faces. It gives them kind of like a bit more of a lived-in. Yeah, it gives their universe a sort of lived-in character where everything's not so pretty and clean and sterilized, I guess. So I feel like he's not copying the Rankin Bass style, but the artist is definitely picking up on kind of like that whimsy that the world has.
Okay, I think that's fair. I like it as a whole. Very unique use of thick lines and whatnot. I don't have anything negative to say here. I think it's a pretty good piece, and very rarely do I actually sit here and look at or judge fan art because I see a lot of people get really mad on Twitter. Things aren't gone by their specific values, and I'm not one of those people. But I thought it would be fun to discuss it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next set of art that Marm wanted to talk about. Oh, who this? One of the toes is. Oh, great.
Art of Stephen Wayne. Art of Wayne, Twitter user.
Yes, and he did a more modernized take on the Thundercats. I'm showing his Twitter account, post right now. And now that you've all seen it, I'm going to go ahead and start showing off some of his work. So on the screen, we have his Lion-O and his Panthro. So, Couch, what do you think about this person's art?
I absolutely love it. While he did a modern take on it, the characters are still definitely recognizable. I kind of like how he sort of gave Lion-O pants, but like not quite. Because I don't know why, but in contrast to Lio, I honestly don't like it when people give Lion-O pants. It just doesn't feel right.
Heathen.
But yeah, I mean, his style, it's very clean. If someone were to do a ThunderCats remake, this is what I would want it to look like. The characters are definitely upgraded, or updated, excuse me, but still very clearly recognizable as the original characters.
All right. Marm, since this is your thing about what's it, what are your thoughts?
I think that this was timed, like this. The artist started drawing this right around when Thundercats Roar was becoming like a hot internet topic, and so there were a lot of redesigns of Thundercats going around. And this one really stood out to me because the artist has actually picked up on, I wouldn't say copying the Rankin Bass style, but definitely paying very close attention to how the characters were constructed in the Rankin Bass style. Like it'd almost be believable for them, to pull out this gear as, I don't know, maybe like a second outfit, or like if they had a special episode where they had to get new costumes. It's a little too detailed for a cartoon. Like they wouldn't be easy to animate, but for a comic or something, or like a cosplay or a modern retelling, I feel like it's exactly the right balance of respect for the old costumes and why the old costumes work, with light touches to make them feel a little bit more battle ready or a little bit more armor like. I feel like the old costumes generally have a kind of like strongman unitard inspiration to them, like old superheroes, and this has a little bit more of a, I don't know, sleek sci-fi armor inspiration to them, while keeping a strong respect for the original designs intact.
All right. Well, here's my thoughts on Lion-O. All right, I can tell his Sword of Omens is inspired by the Sideshow Collectibles Lion-O statue. I can tell that his left arm, that has a not as caddish looking claw shield, so not my dig, is very much so inspired by the 2011 Lion-O, because at one point he got an armor upgrade that gave him a entire armor instead of just a single gauntlet. I'm more fond of pants because I just find them to be practical. But what I wish he would have done here is kept a little bit more color-wise to the original cartoon as opposed to the 2011 one. Or there's this problem I noticed with Thundercat fan art. Everybody wants to make them look like super macho, super boss, and you don't really need to do that. The original designs didn't never make them look like they were ready to kick your teeth in. It made them look fit and ready, but it didn't make them look like super aggressive. I think there's too much taken from the 2011 series as well. Specifically, if you look at his right arm, you can see the same fur pattern that you would on the 2011 line. Instead of a straight line to demark the coloration difference, there's jagged ones. So, I'm not really feeling that aspect of it. But as far as Panthro goes, also a lot of nods to 2011. The scar above the eye, the color palette we're working with here. Can't really say I care for the nunchucks in their redesign because of the spikes around the wrist of the nunchuck. Because if you know anything about using nunchucks, you have to bounce them off your body. You're going to hurt yourself doing it with these. You're going to hurt yourself quite a bit. I also don't like how tall Panthro is in this. Part of Panthro's appeal is that he's the short, stocky, strong dude because he's a leopard. and leopards have absurd strength, that, compared to the rest of their body size. So everybody making Panthro super big or making him, taller than everybody else, it kind of defeats the purpose and the original aesthetic. So it's not really my thing here.
Short king.
He's a muscly short stack, basically.
Yes.
Short. Well, Marm, you got to be careful with some of the words you're using. I'm not sure if you know.
He knows. He knows. That's the
I did it advisedly.
Okay, so we've covered.
Don't get me wrong, I love a good short stack, but still.
All right, so that's Panthro and Lionel. Let's go ahead on to Tigra and Chitara. We're going to go ahead and start again with Couch. Couch, what are your thoughts on these two pieces?
Let me just tab over back to the chat real quick. Second to scroll up for this. Okay, so I am really a fan of Chitara's design. I really like how it kind of looks like it pretty much looks like what they did was they took her original design and just kind of made it very mechanical looking, which I really enjoy. It's very sleek. There's lots of little details. I'm trying to remember. My boyfriend told me that there's actually a word for it when they add just kind of extra little mechanical details, pretty much to make something look cooler. There's an official name for it, and I love that kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, you must be a big fan of the New 52 DC designs then.
I don't know. He's not really a big comics person. He was talking in more context of like space movies like Alien and the one with the PAL. I don't remember the name.
I gotcha.
2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, don't know why I forgot the name of that. But as for Tigra, I'm actually not that as huge of a fan. The top part looks really, really good, but the bottom portion of it is where he loses me a bit with his design, just because I feel like there's not really enough variation. Like, it's all kind of the same color. I wish he would have brought some of the lighter blues from his like chest plate and such, kind of more into the bottom of the design. But overall, I think they're pretty good.
Real quick to address the chat. Mumra stands about 7.5 feet tall. So no, Panthro is not 6'2". All right, so Marm, what are your thoughts on these two designs? If I didn't interrupt Couch by accident.
Oh no, you're good.
That's fine. So here you can see maybe a little bit more of a departure. So I think what the artist is picking up on is that Tigra's design has kind of like, I don't know, this medieval castle motif element on the shoulders. So he's made it asymmetrical and put it on one shoulder. Most of the Thundercats are symmetrical except for Lion-O. So I don't mind a little asymmetry in character design. I think it helps the character be a little bit more memorable. In this case, he's kind of just like overall blue. Maybe he needs like one more punchy element to it. I think the best illustration I've seen of it is, I think it was one of the guys who worked on Lupin the Third. You know, he'd draw like an anime boy with pretty hair, and then he'd draw one of the characters from Lupin the Third who just has a simple hat, and he's instantly recognizable because you just see the hat and who the character is. I feel like if you can simplify a couple of the armor elements and give them one really like strong, distinct visual flair, that's what sells the design. So I kind of like the Chitara design better because it has that flair where along the side of her torso, she has this single yellow stripe on either side, which, you know, it's simple. It's kind of elegant and has a nice curve to it, but it's not so complicated that you have a hard time interpreting it. So I don't mind adding a little bit more detail to kind of like an armored character or a more realistic cartoon style character. But even if you add detail to a armored character, make sure that it's a detail. I don't know. My word for it is it should have some warmth to it.
Yeah. Okay, so my value when it comes to Chitara, I do not like the platform heels. Like, this is a runner. Why did you get the runner platform heels? All right. When it comes to the rest of the design, I guess it's okay. A little bit too busy for my take, because again, she's a runner. She's a long distance runner, and she's a very fast runner. So all the armor bits, I guess they're fine. I don't understand the fishnet right around the waist area, but you know, I guess that's a design issue. And it seems like this guy wants to give, most characters some sort of special thing on their left shoulder for whatever reason. When it comes to Tigra, the biggest problem with Tigra, like if you look at all the other characters, you have now 3 blue characters and 1 orange character. You need something between them to break up the color line. And that's why in the original series, Tigra was like a teal or an aquamarine. He wasn't blue. You can see that in the animation models. You can see that in the cells. What the artist did here, I'm guessing, is reference a screenshot, which isn't accurate, and use that as the basis for colors. But now what he's done is he has created an imbalance in terms of color diversity, and it doesn't make the design pop. I do like the tiger stripes that he added in, but I don't really think they're necessary in this design if you're going to go full blue on it. If you did a little bit more teal, a little bit more green, I think it would be a bit better. I like the electro whip. That's fine. I also liked I liked it when Tigra was bare, was his toes were sticking out of his boots. I don't really like the completely covered feet for Tigra because he climbed a lot and he jumped down from stuff and he needs to have that grip. But overall, I guess it's okay. Obviously, really solid artist, really solid art. I just think that the designs are just a little bit too busy for what they are.
My only disagreement, Lio, on would be on Chitara's heels. I think the artist could have added it maybe for pure intimidation because as someone who can barely walk in heels, if you can run in them for long distances, you terrify me.
Okay, but you say that knowing how heels operate. The mutants aren't smart. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to, let's see here. We are now on to one of Couch's contributions to the art discussion. I got your boy up there.
Got my boy up there. Okay, so before we get into this, I want to complain for just a second. Not only did it take me like 20 minutes to find this picture, because it's really hard to look up specific images on Instagram because Instagram just uses hashtags, not keywords, at least to my knowledge. I don't know, maybe I'm not using it right. But not only that, but what do I get? What do I get as a reward for being able to find this picture? I get called a simp again by Laya.
Simp!
I'm not a simp. Stop it. I'm not. But anyway, so one of my big things with my art preferences is I am a sucker for really sharp, like big, fat, juicy line art. And this piece has it to like a T. I love his use of shadow, how he highlights everything in just like solid black. He really plays with line weight a lot. And his use of color. By the way, this is, if you can't see at the top, this is Rick Sellis on Instagram. I do not know if he has other social media. I could always double check after the stream and update it. But what it almost kind of reminds me of is a lot of the Hellboy comics. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass here because I've never actually like really sat down and read them. I'm not really a huge Hellboy fan. But that's kind of what this style reminds me of. I think it was a very good idea for him to use like neon red for the background because it really makes Bengali pop. Yeah. Because he's, mostly cool tones like whites and blues. And I absolutely love the like yellow lighting. It just, it's so good. I love everything about this.
Yeah, it's really neat. But how about you, Marm? What do you think?
I was going to mention that yellow highlight too. It's one strong color choice, so that makes it easy to interpret. It adds a kind of sculpted, like for muscly characters, giving them a sculpted look helps. But then with a cartoony character, they have that 2D element. So just using a really strong 2D shape for a strong highlight helps you get that sculpted, jacked look without a lot of subtle shading. Yeah, so I dig it.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. And that would be this gentleman's art, another one by that Couch has brought unto us to devour with our eye pieces. So this is done by Choku Comic Artist. That's CHOKOO comic artist. And this is his rendition of Vulture Man. And let me go ahead and just fill in the spots here. I'm going to move these around just a little bit. So we
Yeah,
got a
because
vulture.
there's also one more I didn't realize it's actually by the same person.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, the Mumra I posted.
Yeah, I put it up there. They're both up there now.
Oh, okay. Oh, I keep forgetting about the 30-second lead time. My bad.
It's all right.
But again, this is just another example of someone who has a very, very good handle on line art. Just using like the way he uses just the solid black to really just kind of like carve out the character's features. I mean, obviously these are a little bit different. It looks like the Mumra one, I believe, is just pencil and paper and is a solid color, whereas the Vultureman one, he has the one eye that is colored, and it looks, I believe he used some kind of gray marker
Copics
to fill in the shadows, and I just love this art style.
Yeah,
like,
he's
so much.
Yeah, I really like it too. He's using Copic markers, and I'm supposed to take a class on those, but I can't. I haven't been able to take the break I wanted to yet because the moment I did, everything started falling apart, and I had to go fix it. But no, I really like this type of art, and hopefully at some point I can get to this level. But Marm, what are your thoughts on this art?
I like how, again, this is someone who's referencing the show for a guide, but then adding a bit of the artist's own element to it. So using kind of like the characters, like their face structure, basically. Like Mumra's got those great, meaty cheekbones and the gross teeth, and Vultureman's got like the big brooding forehead. And then kind of like adding a little bit more of his own style in kind of like some of the wrinkles and the crags on their faces. It also kind of like details like the metal plate on Vultureman's head. It's got a couple of nails in it. It's sort of like it's paying homage to the way the characters look in the show. Maybe adding a little bit more detail or flair to them than you could make work in 2D animation.
Yeah.
Also good motion in things like Mumra's ribbons flying around the place. That's always good to add like a hint of motion. Helps the characters feel alive.
All right. Sorry, typing out. All right, so we're going to move on. And what's next? What did I put? This gentleman's art. The last of Couch's contributions. Art by Roger Cruz. That's ROGERCRUZ. He did a lot of Thundercat related art, like I think last month or a month before. But this Jaga is just fantastic in color tone, choice, like the vascularity moving from the pectoral all the way down to his bicep. Like this is a really skilled artist who really understands anatomy.
Right, but he manages to adjust it to the Thundercat style enough to the point where it doesn't go into uncanny valley territory. Like,
yes.
He doesn't make it too realistic, which, as we're going to see in some of the future pieces, a lot of other artists have struggled with. I double-checked the description on this, and what he did was he initially used, he started out with just, on paper, using a pen and watercolor to just kind of get the tones and the shading right. And then he scanned it and transferred it to some digital art program. I didn't look to see which one it is. I'm going to assume maybe Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, which is what I use. And he added this, what I'm going to assume is just an overlay, but it just really makes it look so good.
What are your thoughts, Marm?
I like how this artist is using a kind of like a watery medium for Jaga, who's a ghost. So it's good to have something that's a little transparent or a little translucent to get that otherworldliness to it. Like if he was just using like solid blocky blues, he would feel like a solid thing. He wouldn't feel like a transparent specter. Really good face construction. So and subtle things like the tilt of the head and the shoulders have a little bit. He's solid, but you can tell he's kind of putting his weight on one side a little bit more. So that gives him a little bit more of a feeling of life. Like people don't just stand stock straight. They kind of like rest one side of their body while the other side is carrying more of their weight. And even things like the smoky effect around him, everything he's added has helped add to the overall effect. So there's no needless detail.
Fair. And I've gushed about this piece, but since we have gone through very, very nice things, unfortunately, all the stuff I brought, with the exception of two pieces, are not very, very nice things. So we're going to go ahead and start with the first piece that I brought to bear here. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to this very well rendered Jaga and say hello to Edge Incarnate. Now, here's what I don't like about the piece.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't like the gratuitous violence that is needless. But that's less of an issue. My issue is that this is generally a digital edit and it's all stolen from something. The Sword of Omens in the right hand is from the Ruby costume Sword of Omens that was sold in 2011, and the body of Lion-O is from the Sideshow collectible statue, and so is the body of Mum-Ra and the head of Mum-Ra, and I believe the Kopesh that was used here. I guess this is supposed to be some sort of homage to David, which they could have done better with. The Kopesh, I believe, is from Mythic Legends. I'm fine with general digi-bashings, but come on, man. You got to do better than this. Digi-bashing, I tend to prefer if it's like background-related stuff, but when you take everything wholesale and just throw it in and do edge work on it, no. Just no.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it now, and you can tell that I feel like maybe there wasn't a lot of like thought put into this, because the actual quality of the images that he bashed together is different, and you can tell like his Lion-O's face is like much lower res than his body.
Mm-hmm.
And remember how I was talking about Uncanny Valley?
Right there.
This is what I mean by Uncanny Valley. There's just something about this that looks like wrong.
Yes. And what are your thoughts, Marm?
My thought is, if you're going to use digital tools, you can't forget like foundations of art just because you have digital tools that help you give you photo reference or help give you 3D models to work with. You've got to use them as tools towards an end. So it would help if there was I don't know, like a single unifying shadow or some light and shadows kind of like highlight one side of the image and not the other side of the image. Like if you squint, it all becomes like one dark blob. I also think there are things where if you paste a sword on a guy's body, but the sword didn't originally come from the body, you can kind of tell. Like I feel like if you tried to stand in that pose, it would really hurt your wrist to hold the sword that way while your body's leaning.
It would.
I just kind of tell that two different things got put together on a body, which is why like I always shoot my own reference. You know, I'm just dancing around in my underwear in the basement taking photos so I can make sure I actually get a real post to drop from.
Things I didn't need to know. Also, real quick, apologies to Venkman. I did try to list this stream like as upcoming, but my dumb self accidentally had it as unlisted for a better part of an hour. So sorry about that. But all right, so yeah. We're going to cleanse our palate from something bad. We're going to go to something a little better. All right, so there's this piece here. Unfortunately, again, I could not find who did it. That features Lion-O, Battle Armor He-Man, and a shirtless Thor outside of Snake Mountain. Now, what I like about this is I do like the detail. I love the coloring. I love the lighting. I love the savagery of it while still showing the character's general demeanors. Thor, he wants to wreck things. Lion-O is pensive. He-Man, he's ready, but he's not out there throwing punches unless he needs to be. Good anatomy, good vascularity, really fantastic coloring, and a great background. Like, I love this piece. My only critique, I hate it when people draw Lion-O with his sword on his back. I genuinely do hate it when characters, tend to wear it on their back, because I'm a swordsman and I do hate that. But other than that, I have absolutely no complaints about this piece.
My only real criticism of it would be Lion-O's hair maybe looks a little off model, and one of this is just a personal pet peeve with me, but it seems like when a lot of people draw Lion, in an effort to make him, look very tough and very macho, they kind of end up accidentally making him look older.
Yes.
Than he actually is, because what you have to remember is Lion-O is, I think it actually canonically mentions somewhere that he's like 20.
Yeah.
And in this picture, he looks like he could be in his late 30s.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, besides that, the colors and lighting are excellent in this. And the way he renders muscle, just chef's kiss.
What do you think, Marm?
I kind of feel like Thor's the odd one out of
He
the
is.
trio.
Without question.
You generally want, yeah. So for centers of interest, you're always going to have like one thing that dominates the composition. So Lion-O kind of stands out because you see more of him, and he's got this great dynamic pose. He-Man, you don't see as much of him, but he's closer to the camera, so you've got a bit more of a detail shot of his face. But then Thor's kind of almost cut off a little bit, and he's farthest away. Like, I feel like maybe the natural thing would have been since Thor can fly, if you brought him up like behind Lio and in the air, then he could fill up the big empty space behind Lion-O, and he could still have like his dynamic, summoning the hammer of Mjolnir. I also don't know why Thor specifically is shirtless, because the other two get some kind of like costume from their universe that helps you identify them instantly as that guy. Like, give Thor his helmet, give Thor shirtless and his cape, give him one of his iconic Marvel Comics-y things.
I mean, Thor's one of those characters, if he shows up shirtless, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to accept it. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to yet something else that hurts me. So the art on this one, composition, coloring, that is all like legitimately fantastic by Dave Raposa. Like this, the technicality of the art is great. It is. I'm not going to argue that. Good anatomy, good coloring, good shading, good texturing, good background. That is all 100% fantastic. Excellent amount of skill, excellent amount of knowing the basics and putting them into play. My problem is twofold. Number one, I don't care for the banana hammock, and I have a problem with people. Yeah, I have a problem. I have a problem with people that want to. Thundercats reaches a really good balance between the feline traits and the human traits, to the point to where they almost look like a glam rock band from the 80s. But what a lot of more modern artists do is they push it towards furry territory. And not only am I anti-furry in that aspect, like for Thundercats specifically, it just doesn't work. And you see that here. If you were to remove the Thundercat symbol and change the color of the clothes, you wouldn't know who this is. You wouldn't have a clue. You'd think it was one of the lions from that one episode of Mega Man. Or you'd think it was, I don't know, a fursona based on Simba. You wouldn't have a clue. So that's where my problem is with this piece. What about you, Couch?
Honestly, I kind of feel the same way. Obviously this is a very, very skilled artist. It's a beautiful piece. I think it's just, I just don't really personally care for this rendition of Lion-O.
And you, Marm?
This is almost perfectly illustrates what I was trying to get at earlier, where there's like one really strong highlight along the side, which means if you squint, then you can kind of still see the figure. So that's nice. Yeah, I feel like, so I guess it's this thing where if you reimagine the character, that's your chance to add some creative different things. So Lion-O having a lion tail, that's fine. That's something that I could imagine as like an alternate version of Lion-O. But the balance of the original characters is they have the cat-like elements, but they mostly have a human element to them. And I feel like some of the human element has especially been lost in the face. Like, you've got to keep enough of the human element so that you can sort of see the character and see yourself in the character a little bit. Even if I guess the other opposite thing you could do is you could push it completely in the opposite direction, have just like a complete lion at like push even farther away from the original, just to kind of like make the point that, yeah, I'm not trying to do the original at all. I'm trying to do something that's a completely different alternate take on the character. But if you're trying to keep that balance, I generally lean towards a little bit more human in an animal themed character than less human in an animal themed character.
Yeah. Now we're gonna have to go through the others pretty quick because we're kind of getting long in the time here, and I've got to go to bed at some point. So we're gonna move on to the next one, and pulling that up. And I am going in order of what I posted in the chat. I really do not like this one. I don't like it for several reasons. Number one, if you were actually to wear armor like that, it would hurt. Like, you would move and it would hurt. And I don't care for the design of the Sword of Omens. Sword of Omens is a tool that is made for precision, because it's a long sword. And this is just some big honking curved blade for no reason. And just gonna be honest here, this looks like one of the dudes I would have busted for diddling kids. This doesn't look like a heroic Lord of the ThunderCats. Like, this is the guy that I would see on Discord telling a 15-year-old, "You're so mature for your age." And I just brought this chat down. Fantastic. All right, so okay, so Marm, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so a slender Lion-O, right? So we're getting into that territory where what do you want to do when you reimagine the character? This doesn't feel like it has a connection. This feels like a pirate or something. Something that just has like communicates something completely different than like a King Arthur King type of character. The barbarian, I feel like there's something odd about that handle. Like I'm just trying to imagine holding that sword in my hand. And I know there are a lot of curved scimitar style blades, but then it's got like the big honking blade, which contrast. Like the cool thing about scimitars is they have that sleek curved look to them, right? So everything is sleek and slender and lithe, and that's like a big barbarian blade. So it's like there are two different ideas fighting with each other that they don't quite go together. Like big strong hero doesn't go with sleek ninja assassin, and this feels like this went part of the way towards making him more like a Prince of Persia ninja type of character, but didn't commit to it whole hog.
Yeah, and as a swordsman myself, I would never use a sword that looked like that or was shaped like that. And I've used long swords, katana, messer, saber. I would never use a sword. I would rather pick up a club if I were in a fight for my life than the sword like this. It looks unwieldy. It does not look well balanced. I know it's all fantasy and that's the excuse, but just this doesn't look like, this isn't even a good design in general. Like it doesn't even fit the motif of anything here. It's just big sword because big sword, haha, make it look kind of anime, and my Lion-O looks like a deranged furry Care Bear. So no. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next piece. Let me double check here. Okay, the next piece won't be anywhere near as painful as this one, so we have a bit of an eye cleanser here. All right, so next piece is now up. Now, here I do like the fact that they stuck to primary character designs. I do like the coloring on it. They actually got Tigra's colors correct. I like the general composition. But here's my problem. Number one, furry claw shield. Lion-O's never had a furry claw shield. 4 fingers instead of 3. Claw shield only has 3 fingers. Because again, it's a gauntlet. And what's Lion-O looking at? Who's he busting? Who's he literally bumping his chest out at? It's not Mum-Ra. Mum-Ra's to the right of him. So who's he looking at? Who's he giving this declaration of power to?
Oh my god, I've seen this picture quite a few times before, and I didn't even notice that, but now that you've pointed it out, that is gonna bug me every single time I see it.
Yeah, and it's so far from everybody else, because Panthro, he's looking at Slide's looking at him. Tigra, you clearly see he's turning to face off against Monkeyin, who Monkeyin is looking at Tigra. Wily Cat and Wily Kid are dealing with the Jackalman on the edge, and Chitara is uppercutting Jackalman with her staff. And for some reason, Kid Lion-O's in the mix. I really don't know what the point of that was, but everybody else, they're engaged, but Lion-O's not, and that is so weird to me. And the sad thing is, the rest of the art is just really, really good. From the layout, the composition, the inking, the coloring, the lighting. I mean, it's beautiful, but they missed those two things, and that takes me right out of it.
Even so, one solution would be if you just had Lion-O cheating and looking out at the audience. That would be a cheat because he'd be breaking the fourth wall. But then at least you could read it as like a comic book cover where he's like saying, "Hey kids, check out this awesome comic book," right? So he'd be looking at you. The other trick is I love the Twitter accidental Renaissance photos where they just show like photos of chaotic scenes that just so happen to look like Renaissance paintings. And the thing about Renaissance paintings is, for like really good composers in the Renaissance, everything is pointing at or directing you to something else. So sort of like doesn't matter what part of the painting you look at, you end up going somewhere else cool. And even if you had like an easy fix for this, if you didn't want to redraw Lion-O from scratch, would be have him looking at Mum-Ra and maybe pointing his sword at Mum-Ra, so he still wouldn't be jumping towards Mum-Ra. It'd sort of be like he was jumping forward and then he noticed Mum-Ra, so it would basically like it'd be, his attention is focused on the big bad guy. And that's also really good too, is to have the leader of the good guys focused on the leader of the bad guys for a good matchup. I also feel like Panthro and Slithe are kind of just in front of everything. Like, it might be cooler if they were in the extreme foreground, wrestling with each other. Maybe even have like framing something. Framing is a really good technique, because then you can have two characters, saying that Lion-O is important because everything is sort of like wrapping around him in the composition. Yeah. I also don't know what Tigra is doing. Like, he switched sides. He's a mutant now.
Nah, he's turning. It looks like he's turning to face Monkey in this. So, while I get what you're saying, because most of the other villains are facing, towards the cats. In this case, that doesn't bother me, because I can see where they're going. I can see the line of action for that. But the things I mentioned takes me right out. Again, I really hate it when people draw a Lion-O with a furry claw shield, because number one, it's a shield. Fur wasn't often used as shields past the Stone Age, and 9 times out of 10, that's how Mum-Ra saw his reflection. Good luck seeing that in a bunch of fur. So, Couch, what are your thoughts here?
Honestly, I think you guys have pretty much gone over most of the points that I would have. I also dislike the furry claw shield, just personally, because it's not, one, because it's not canon, and two, it kind of reminds me of the hand portions of a fursuit, which kind of throws me off a little bit.
Where's Lion-O's free hug, Couch?
Yeah, I would give Lion-O a free hug, but maybe not someone in a Lion-O fursuit. That would be a little terrifying.
Couch, we all know what you do. You'd give him a hug, and then you pull out the knife and just put the point aside. Where's Bengali? Tell me where he is right now.
He's like, oh, here he is. He just hands me like a plastic drug mart skeleton and runs.
Oh God, no! It's like I need my himbo.
But anyway,
okay, so
yeah, I do think it's a little odd that Tigra is on the other side, on the other opposite side of the piece, when all of the other Thundercats appear to be on the right. I kind of wish Mum-Ra and Lion-O were more of the focus, and a couple people in the comments have noticed that it kind of looks like young Lion-O is trying to grab Chitara's cheeks, and I kind of noticed that too. I think that was just maybe a little unfortunate oversight on the part of the artist.
It is. It's also just really weird that he's there. Okay, you choose young Lion-O instead of Jaga. That's just strange, my dude.
Yeah. And my only other real criticism is that Snarf looks too much like Snarfer in this. He looks too young.
He needs the old man wrinkles. You're right.
Snarf.
All right, so we're done with that. We can move on to the final two. So this one is usually when an artist is playing around, what they do is they try to draw a character in different styles. It's a really good exercise, but sometimes they miss the mark. And in this one, that's what happened with some of these. All right, so the big boxy looking lion on the left-hand side, that's him trying to draw in the style of the Sunbow Transformers. And I know Grimm's going to see this in chat, and he is going to be pulling his hair out. Because what this person did is they just took Lion-O and made him boxy. There are human characters in Transformers. They share a universe with Jim and G.I. Joe. Why didn't you just draw Lion-O in the Sunbow style? Why'd you make him this blocky abomination? And then we can go a little bit further. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said Roblox looking ass.
Yes, except, I actually saw Roblox Lion-O and it looked better. The Hanna-Barbera Lion-O, it's just Barney in a cosplay. And you can't do, when you're working on people's style and other people's styles, you don't just stick the character in a new stick an existing character from that series in a cosplay. That you should avoid. That does not help you artistically. So, and then we see one that's basically a redo of Yakko Warner in a Lion-O cosplay. There are human characters in the original Animaniacs you could have based that on. Same with the Charlie Brown Lion-O. That's just Charlie Brown in a Lion-O cosplay. There are humans. You could see them. If you wanted to really be funny, you just show a Lion-O from, like, I don't know, the Shoes Up, and say that's the Charlie Brown Lion-O, or the Peanuts Universe Lion-O, because, you know, you never really saw much of the adults. The same with the Homer Simpson Lion-O. Like, this really could have been better if he... And he did with most of them. Like, most of them just look like Lion-O in a different style. Specifically the Bruce Timm Lion-O that he did next to the original one. If he had just extrapolated that out to the rest of the characters, this piece would have been 100% better.
The thought, I think, would be, if I commissioned, like, especially if it's like an old-timey dead artist, you say, if I commissioned this artist to draw this character, how would that artist draw this character?
Yes.
Like, it's a little bit different than, what if Fred Flintstone looked like Lion-O? If Hanna-Barbera drew Lion-O, they'd probably try to give him some, you know, like, heroic features, but they draw him in kind of like their very simple, easy to animate style. So it's a bit more like art. Think more about how the artist would draw. Think less about how the character you're copying from looks.
Yes. Actually, hold on here. You said that about, you know, commission somebody to do it. So I think I have something like that. You'll just have to give me a moment to find it. There's somebody I support on Patreon who goes by the moniker of Hezu Neutral. She has a YouTube channel. Half the things she talks about I don't get, because, like, I think I'm a different generation than she is. But she's genuinely entertaining. She's really fun. I'm really happy to support her. And every month, she goes to her top supporters and she's like, hey, what do you want me to draw for you? So the first thing I had her draw was Lion-O. So if I can find that, I'll go ahead and throw that up on screen, because she did her own take and he's instantly recognizable. It's in her style. And I think what she did was really interesting. So I'm going to go find that real quick. While I'm doing that, let me go ahead and pull up the next image. And we're going to have a talk about this image. Let's see, since Grimm's in the chat. Grimm, can you tell me what you think I'm going to talk about with this image? Let's see if he can reply. If he's still in chat, he may have found something else to do with his time, and I wouldn't blame him. Let's see, when did I start this? You guys feel free to talk about this real quick while I try to find this other image. What are you two noticing about this image? What do you think?
The color poster one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I don't hate it. I actually kind of like the bright color vibe it has, where, like, everything is at maximum bright color. I feel like it gives, like the fact that you, like, what's the line? So I think lurid colors, they look lurid if everything is 100% brightness and your eye has no place to rest. In this case, we have kind of like the big white sword and we have the dark blue. So we actually have some places to rest. So the fact that bright colors are used everywhere else, it kind of like they balance each other out. It's a pretty straightforward composition with just the Sword of Omens cutting it straight down the middle, and like bad guys on one side, good guys on the other side. But some inventive stuff, like the energy kind of dividing the bottom part of the composition and sort of illustrating the sight beyond sight. Something about Vulture Man has weirded me out that he's just doing the YMCA Y pose.
That's kind of what I was gonna say as well. Is it's one of those pieces where I really, really liked it at first, but the more I looked at it, the more I kept finding stuff wrong with it. Like, or I guess not necessarily wrong, but just a lot of the posing seems very awkward, like Vulture Man's kind of like Marm said, YMCA pose. The fact that Lion-O over on the left is just kind of JoJo posing at nothing.
Okay. Well,
because Mumra's on the side, but it kind of looks like he's not really looking at him, and Mumra's ever living form in like the top right, the mouth looks a little awkward on it, but overall I think it's pretty solid. There's just a little bit of awkwardness to it that it turns me off a little bit.
All right, let me see if I can get this thing to work, because for some reason it's not picking up my tablet, so don't want to do main monitor. I'm going to tell you what my problem is, and John actually nailed it in the chat here. So give me a second. Properties. Come on. What are you doing? Oh, it's only listing one monitor. That's weird. That's going to be a problem. I guess it won't be. Let me go ahead and do this since it wants to play games. It's playing games today, Couch. Can't have that.
I'm not. Oh, you're not a gamer.
I am a gamer, but I game properly. I game responsibly. So let's see here. Let's see. Main monitor. So we're going to do it like this. All right. So I'm not going to be able to look at the chat while I do this. Okay. So you guys are going to have to watch the stream. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with Jaga in the top left corner. Old Jaga looks really well drawn, doesn't it?
Now, just so you know, your stream is a solid black still.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
give it a moment. Give it a moment, because this is the pain of having to do it like this, because it won't pick up my second monitor for some reason.
Okay, it popped up.
Okay.
I see.
Take a look. In a few seconds, once it decides to do that. I really wish I could have you guys look at it, but actually, I wonder if I could. Give me a second here. I think I can solve this. I'm going to go ahead and turn the screen black again so I can access Discord and get into here. Screen. I'm going to share application window, and it's going to be Clip Studio. And boom! I got you guys doing that. Now I got the main monitor turned back on. All right, so now we can both do this. So you guys watch? Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's traced.
Oh, this is the traced one.
It's traced.
Oh,
let's go ahead and move over here to Mumra, right? Oh, Mumra, big old bad Mumra. Yeah, it's also traced.
oh my god.
Oh, we ain't done.
No.
Let's look at Mummy Mumra. Also traced.
Oh my.
Are these screenshots from the show?
Some of them are. The ones that the last three were screenshots from the show. Now let's go ahead and go all the way over to the ThunderCats themselves. Let's take a look at let's see here. Who do I want to focus on first? Who do I want to ruin everything for? Let's see. Let's go with old Panthro first, right? Panthro. He's a man's man. He's their mechanic. He's also traced directly from the model sheet.
Before you show it. Yeah, that's what I was gonna guess.
Yes.
Yeah, the model sheet. I recognize that now.
Okay, so that's the model sheet. So let's go ahead and talk about Wily Kit. The Wily Kit looks really awkward, right? Just in posing, framing, just really strange. It's because it's traced from a toy. Specifically from the Foosh's article about the Matty Collector, Wily Kit and Wily Cat. So yeah, traced. I know that Wily Cat is, but I couldn't find the image. So since Snarf's in the frame, Snarf, he's jumping in, he's enjoying himself from the model sheet. Directly from the model sheet. Let's go down. Let's talk about Couch's second favorite Tiger. So we got Tiger here, right? Also from the model sheets. Directly traced.
I knew it. I recognized that shit immediately. I'm just like, oh.
And the strong independent female, and I mean that unironically, of Chitara, also traced. Also traced. So traced. 100% traced.
A model sheet again?
From the model sheet. Oh, we're not done. It gets interesting. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move over here to the mutants. Mutant time. All right, so Jackalman. Jackalman's interesting because Jackalman's doesn't come from the initial model sheet. It comes from the original character concepts before they were finalized. Just traced and his armor added on. Now, oddly enough, Slide differs. Because the model sheet pose was taken from the reptilians, but it was slightly altered. This actually has some form of artistry to it. The little bit in this piece, right? Now, Monkey is the same way. Primarily traced. Only a slight difference in where his leg is positioned. Now, Vultureman, I know that's taken from something in production. I could not find it, but I know it's taken from something. So, that's what I found that's traced. Now, for the rest of this piece, here's what I do know. I can't find the image for it, but I know that Lion-O is a traced picture of the Bandai 8-inch Lion-O. And the reason why I know that is because the claw shield has the skinny fingers, and it's shaped exactly like this. And so is the hand. This piece, everything in this piece was taken from something else. It was all traced. None of this is really original, except for the slight variations in Slithe and the pivoted leg on Monkeyan. That's it. And this is being sold in stores on metal tins to people with the idea that it is not composition from everything else. So yes, I am not happy. I am quite irritated by that. And now I can stop sharing my screen. And now I can go take a look at the chat and see what they're having to say about all this. Lio had an Xbox One. I do still have one.
This is insane, lol.
Like,
Wendy Domino says this is insane. John Caulfield, this is just sad.
I'm looking at the line art too, and whoo, it's sloppy. That is some sloppy line art.
It is.
Ooh.
Don't trace, tracers. Tracer, no tracing. Ooh, I found the image. So let me go ahead and save this. I guess I can be saved as Patreon sketch. I'm going to put it in the chat, and then I'm going to put it on screen. Aha, here we go. Boom. And now I'm going to add it here in the stream. When you have somebody and they are confident in their own style and you want to see what it looks like in their style and you commission them, this is the type of thing you're going to get. This is Hezu Neutral on YouTube. She's a great content creator. Even if I don't know what she's talking about, I really enjoy her work. And if you'll notice, her take on Lion is a bit different. Giving the red pins on the shoulder straps, the swords are quite a bit different. Not my taste, but like she got the iconic things right? She got the lines on the eyes. She got the fur pattern correct. She's even gave him the metallic claw shield, though highly detailed, and even gave a scabbard to the Sword of Omens that hangs off his belt. Like this. I love seeing different takes like this. This I like. Hezu Neutral, go subscribe to her. She's fantastic. Complete sweetheart. Like, I really enjoy supporting her. So
I love the movement too. It's just,
right?
So good. Also, he dummy thick.
Oh my god. No! No, Couch.
Yeah.
No.
Them hips.
Absolutely stupid brainstem dummy thick.
No, Mighty Dirk, I do not have a Nintendo Switch. Sorry. PC Master Race. Anywho, that's all we've got in terms of the main podcast. So next month, into the new year, so this will be the last podcast of the year, we are going to talk about... Where'd it go? Oh, I'm all the way in the second season. Need to scroll up. We ain't there quite yet. We got months to go before we're there, like probably a couple of years. We are going to be talking... What the... We're going to be talking about Termagard of Tusca.
Sorry, I had an ad play on me in the background.
We'll tell it to stop.
Yeah, it's all right.
Next time we're covering Termagard of Tusca, the Mumra Burble. And do you guys want to try your hands at 3 episodes in one podcast?
Ooh, yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
All right, then we're covering Termagard of Tusca, the Mumra Burble, and Mechanical Plague. Now, we covered a hero this time. Let's cover a villain next time. Tell me, chat, what do you want covered? And in 30 seconds,
not covered yet.
Oh, there's a lot of characters we haven't covered. Like they tend to be like insulary characters, but we can go over a few other ones since, again, you guys weren't here from the beginning, so I guess we can cover some older ones.
Have we done Alluro yet?
Alluro. I think we do Alluro with you here, Couch?
I feel like we didn't because there was a joke I wanted to make about him, and I feel like I would have remembered it. The joke being that he sounds like a groomer. Like, wow, you are so mature for your age.
Now, don't tell any of your parents about this. This is our secret.
Don't like Alluro. He gives me the jeebies.
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate the fact that you liked the Demon House video. Didn't perform well, but it's okay. Baron Toss. That's a good one too. Goodness.
Ooh, Taxman.
Yes.
Don't like the tax.
Nobody likes. Not even a taxman. Taxmen at least have some level of dignity.
A tax fraud man.
There we go. Okay, so here's what I want you to do, chat. I want you to type 1 if you want us to cover Alluro, and I want you to type 2 if you want us to instead cover Baron Toss. And now we wait.
I have to quickly open up all my alt accounts so I can steal this election.
Don't you start with that nonsense. I will slap you. I will slap you. I'm the one person in this chat who knows who you are. You're the dog on the outside looking in.
Wow, 2 is winning overall.
You don't say. There's only 3 votes. Oh, 4. Oh, goodness. 5 votes. 6 votes.
There they go.
7 votes. Stop
It's
the counting.
5 to 3.
I already forgot which number represents what character.
Alluro is number 1. Baron Toss is number 2.
I see.
You'll get it next time, Couch. I'm sure.
That's all right. I mean, I like both of these characters, despite the joke I made about Alluro.
Do you mind if I send you something? It's a little saucy. We can do a role play. Oh, God. You're right. All right, so we're covering Baron Toss. Now, we did fan art this time. What should we do next time?
Well, I already made you guys suffer through one fan fiction. I don't know if you guys would want to do that again.
I think fan fiction is one of those things because they tend to be so long. We cover individually, like for like something special for funsies, or if we just want to mix it up and change the format a little bit and just do something goofy.
I was actually talking to some people in the ThunderCats Wiki Discord. I guess that story, and because you guys got so into the voices while reading it, we actually scared a couple people.
Yeah, you were telling us that, and I think those, like, if we're scaring you, you've lived a very posh life.
Yeah.
I am not reading fan fiction from Autobot Pikachu, John. That is a no.
That could be potentially making fun of someone who is very young, or I'm not going to say it, but we're all thinking it.
Yes.
And I don't really want to go down that route.
I don't either.
But yes, John, we do know what you're talking about. We are aware that Autobot Pikachu exists.
Yes, and I was doing a bit about Alluro. I didn't actually ask anybody here if they want to RP. Definitely not with them. No, just no. And I am married very happily. Yes, John, I know who Autobot Pikachu is. I know who Persia is. I know who Cheesy are. I do know who these people are. Granted, the other two aren't anywhere or not bad at all compared to Autobot Pikachu, but I don't like that guy. There's something wrong with that dude's brain.
Wait, have you actually talked to Autobot Pikachu before? Or
no,
just,
but
read their stuff?
I can tell by what I've read. There's something wrong with that guy's brain.
My theory, I have a couple theories. Mine is either what you think, the person is maybe very young, or English is not their first language, or some combination of all three.
Brain not work today. Brain machine broken.
Brain machine broke. They also really like to write fan fictions about characters turning into babies, which is kind of weird.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marm.
I was trying to think. I want something like non-fetishy, but maybe like something. Is there any like really good infamous, like famous ThunderCats fan fiction for like how cheesy and horrible it is? Like the Obama Chaos Emeralds thing for the Sonic fandom.
I'm gonna tell you right now, you're not gonna find anything on the level of that because the Sonic fandom is deranged to begin with, and the ThunderCat fandom is just a bunch of old people.
The ThunderCats fan, pretty much the last fan fiction we read, that was about it. That was actually like one of the more, from what I understand, one of the more like notorious ones. But he actually wrote another one that's supposedly more. He also wrote this other one called Bengali's New Art, which is supposedly kind of on the same level as like. It's basically the ThunderCats equivalent of like, you know, Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, or like it's Bengali's New Art to the ThunderCats is what Dipper Goes to Taco Bell is to Gravity Falls, and what Cupcakes is to My Little Pony.
We don't talk about either of those things. I mean, the Gravity Falls one is funny because of the incident that it caused at a convention, but you know.
Wait, John, Breaking the Code, wasn't that the gay one? But, like, not in, like, a good way? in like a weird. I know there was one where they made Tiger really rapey, and I don't like that one at all. That could have been breaking the code.
Yeah, I think that's the one. I think that's the one. No. Just no. No. Hey, Lio, I might have some art of tiger sharks that you might be interested in. Well, if you do have art of tiger sharks or anything like that, let me... I don't know why it doesn't always save it. But let me go ahead and throw a link to the ThunderCats Wiki Discord server into the chat. And if people want, they can hop in and have a lot of fun and talk to a bunch of boomers about a 35-year-old cartoon. There you go. All right, so that's going to go ahead and do it for this time. We'll figure out what we're going to cover between now and then, probably 5 minutes before the show starts. But thank you all for your time.
Bada bing.
I'd like to thank my patrons and Comic Basics. You guys take it easy and have a good night.
Bye, guys. Have a
Merry
good one.
Christmas, everybody.